So what kind of feedback have you gotten from parents that hey, this is, you took it to heart. You said, all right, this, man, it was worth doing this because of this response I got from a student, a family member, someone.
Yeah, okay. The feedback question. Yeah, it's a good one. The first thing I would absolutely say is that the Math Academy is not for everybody. It certainly isn't. It's a lot of math. It is not the easy. It is not the easy path at all, right? It's really the Math Academy is for parents who are looking for, I would say, results. They are looking for their child to become excited about math. They're looking for their child to develop their mathematical thinking and skills, but it's not the easy path. It's an hour of math every day. Now, we do have some families that choose to self-pace it and they're not involved with the group work. But again, that insight that I had at the beginning that, wow, for this to be successful, it needs to be more than just listening to my lectures, no matter how good they could be. It needs to be more than them just working through skills-based homework, if you will, and to develop, sort of that mathematical part of their knowledge. It needs to be more creative. It needs to involve the puzzles and problem solving, and that needs to be done to help also to develop that human connection. So the students are involved in group work with peers where there's minimal adult involvement. I'm not there for their group work. There could be a parent there that's supervising it, but the kids are doing it on their own. So the feedback sometimes I might get is, this is too much for us, and that I understand, right? And I had one parent once that said, you know what, we just don't want to put that much effort into math. And so they said, we're leaving this, and what we're going to do is this program called Easy Peasy Math. Okay, well, I can say that the Math Academy is not the easy peasy math route. That is for sure. But I think the positive feedback that we've received, and it's the thing that gets me, I think makes me most proud and happy, is when I hear from a parent, and we get this quite regularly, that a parent will say, my child used to hate math and now they really have learned to love it. And that's huge, because ultimately, isn't this true that, well, ultimately, I don't know. We spoke about this whole idea of, learning life lessons and developing the human being and all of this. But in terms of, oftentimes parents worry, you used the word worry earlier, they worry that their child is not going to be prepared for the world. And that's a legitimate concern, you know. And ultimately, if you're just, you have so much freedom as a homeschooler, if you're like, we'll just learn math as they, whatever they feel like doing and so forth, and there's no structure at all, then it's not hard to imagine that that child isn't going to be ready to go off into a university course and thrive in any way. um, but yeah, so we want to make sure that our children, that our students are prepared, that they have the skills that they need. And I spoke earlier um, about the thinking that's necessary to really to be successful in studying in university, or are, successful in life. But the other thing that I think is so important, and this is, to me, some of the feedback I get, is that the students are now excited. They're engaged in learning, and it's helping to develop their passion for life. And I think this is the most important thing as a parent, as a homeschool educator, or as a teacher, to make sure that our children, that our students are keeping alive that passion and enthusiasm for life. Because if
Wow.
they have this enthusiasm and passion for life and learning, that'll take them very far. And so I think that's some of the best feedback as I get is, again, it sounds awful, and I don't mean to be critical of all those excellent teachers out there in our public schools and private schools in the world that are really doing the best they can, and in many cases being actually quite successful in spite of the curriculum. But a lot of, I'd say, the predominant amount of time, the curriculum these students are basically encountering in their math classrooms is something that's quite soul crushing. It's not something that's helping them to develop their enthusiasm. It's something that they're just getting through at best. In many cases, they're just, managing to get through the system. And so what, we're really hoping to do is to develop this passion and enthusiasm for learning. And one of the best ways to do that that's a huge question. I mean, the title of my books is Making Math Meaningful. Well, how do you make it meaningful? Well, one of the ways is through those giving them experiences of discovery, giving them experiences of true problem solving, and that feeling of frustration when we can't figure something out, and that feeling of absolute total joy when they figured out something that they struggled with for a while. Though that makes math meaningful. And then the other thing, which I think is very important, is context. What's the purpose of this? Right? This path that we're engaging in, this learning path. And I outlined as a very simple example the Pythagorean theorem. When we get to 10th grade and then we look back over what have we done with this one little topic over the last few years, and where is it going into the future? This gives it context and purposefulness, gives it meaningfulness for the students. And so I think all of that is, really important. And that's part of our real goal in the Math Academy. And that's certainly been my goal in developing this whole curriculum.
Well, I think you nailed it. I think you definitely walk the walk. You came up with the idea. It's hitting the mark on all the measures that you've had. It sounds like feedback from parents is something you take to heart, which is important because I think they're not looking for a vendor. They're looking for a collaborator in many instances. And they want this to work out. There's many reasons that people homeschool, but certainly a common one is that they're dissatisfied with how it's going on. So by giving them an alternative, it allows them to, if they thoughtfully look into this, to see if it's a match. I think you make another good point, which is it's not unrigorous. It is something that requires effort, but that you're not going to, it's not the type of effort that's like doing 1,000 worksheets or memorizing something by rote, or it's not the type that closes your mind or sucks the soul out of the experience. It really is something that's fulfilling. It fills the experience with meaning and with purpose. And I think you should highly consider changing the title to Jamie York Math Academy Experience.
I like the idea. I like the idea. And what does experience mean? It's not just doing things hands-on. Sometimes we do that, but it's really this deep personal experience of growth, right? And I say to my own children who are now in their 20s that, your education doesn't stop when your formal university or high school education ends, but it's, your job, I like to think up until the age of 28 is to just go out into the world and learn from your life experiences. I
Right.
feel that that's so important.